All right, I mentioned that Haley from Raleigh, North Carolina is the winner of the Text a Mug contest. But now here is your chance to win a stand mug. Just text the word mug to 67742. That's the word mug to 67742 and follow the link to enter. Now, not everyone can win, but you can get one too for a gift of a stand mug this season. In fact, you could put this on your Christmas list and say, hey, what do you want? If somebody asks you what do you want for Christmas, say, I'd like a stand mug. And then send them to tonyperkins.com to find out how they can buy one for you. Now, by the way, message sends rates vary. Message and data rates may apply. Reply, stop to cancel, help for help. Visit frc.org/text for terms and conditions and our privacy policy. I'm required to read that, all right? All right, in the last segment, we talked about the big gains that we've seen in the pro-life movement, thanks to the efforts of a growing number of committed men and women who've stepped up to speak out and defend the unborn. I mean, I've watched this, and it's, quite frankly, it's the reason I got involved in politics, kind of swept into it through the pro-life movement. Well, I see on the horizon the next area where a movement is growing, and it's encouraging, it's challenging, a lot of bad out there. But it's encouraging to see that parents are stepping up, taking on the issue of public education and the indoctrination that is happening in America's classrooms. This was critical in last month's Election Day victories in states like Virginia. And then, of course, all across the country, there were school board races in which conservatives won. Parents pushing back against this leftist indoctrination are taking over school boards. But we need to keep our eye on the ball. A few victories are great, but we need many victories in order to right what is wrong in America when it comes to public education. Joining me now to talk about some of the latest developments is Meg Kilgannon, Senior Fellow for Education Studies here at the Family Research Council. Meg, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Tony. It's great to be here.
Meg, I want to start off, I'm going to get to Virginia because we've got some developments there with some of the books in the libraries, but I want to start off with something that is just now surfacing. It actually happened the beginning of last month, November the 9th. But we've heard from the White House on down that critical race theory isn't being taught in schools. This is all being made up by conservatives. It's the boogeyman that's out there. Well, the superintendent of the Detroit Public School Community District, as I said, on November the 9th, made very clear that critical race theory is in the classrooms. Now, I want to play a clip of Superintendent Nikolai Vitti, who spoke about critical race theory. Now, he's not a conservative trying to accuse people of doing something. He's trying to defend what's happening in the public school classrooms. Play that clip for us, please.
Our curriculum is deeply using critical race theory, especially in social studies, but you'll find it in English language arts and the other disciplines. We were very intentional about creating curriculum, infusing materials, and embedding critical race theory within our curriculum. As was stated by many speakers today, it's because students need to understand the truth of history, understand the history of this country, to better understand who they are and about the injustices that have occurred in this country.
Meg, isn't that what we've been saying, that it's there in the classrooms?
Absolutely. That's what we've been saying. It's there. It may not be called critical race theory, but it's infused. It's infused throughout the curriculum. It's embedded in social studies, it's embedded in English, it's embedded in history and government and even math and science. It's absolutely there. It's baked in, as they say.
So I think now we're past this point of the hide and seek where the left is saying it's not in there, it's not in there. I mean, I think we know it's there. Parents know it's there. Their children are being taught to hate America, that America is systemically racist, it's wrong, this is popping up. So now the question is, how do we deal with this? We've seen just recently North Dakota, they have banned critical race theory from the classrooms in North Dakota. The legislature passed a bill. The governor signed it. Interesting, the head of the North Dakota United Teachers Union denounced the efforts to ban critical race theory from the classrooms and said that the theoretical framework was not a part of the state's public school curriculum. Again, we see it's not there. Well, certainly it's not being taught with neon lights saying critical race theory, but as we just heard, and as you just stated, it's been infused into every aspect. Where do we stand now with what's happening across the country with parents addressing critical race theory? There's still battles being fought?
Absolutely. There are different states have different methods, different legislation has been enacted in Florida, in Texas, you said North Dakota recently. And now the question is going to be, will these bills withstand the lawsuits that will follow? Because just like we have a free speech issue when it comes to transgender pronouns and compelled speech, we have sort of the same issue in reverse on critical race theory and the government not being able to prevent people from speaking certain ways. So the way you go about getting rid of critical race theory in the school system, I think, goes to the bigger issue of the fact that it's baked in. It informs the training of teachers. It is inculcated in new teacher training programs across the country. And so if we want to address it, we're going to have to look at all those teacher training programs and start focusing on content, on subject matter, and on pedagogy, and not on theories like critical race theory and queer theory. We need to educate children. In a district like Detroit, most students are performing under the national average on national unstandardized tests there. And I don't think more critical race theory is going to help them do better on those sorts of measures of success. What they need to focus on is reading and writing and arithmetic. That's the 3 R's, as we call them, right? That we need to help them get grounded in those fundamentals of education that are necessary for everybody, rich or poor. You need to know the fundamentals to get ahead in life and to be truly educated. Critical race theory doesn't help with that.
I want to amplify something you just said, because I think it's extremely important that we understand that this is not something that you can solve just by taking a particular textbook, even though you don't use textbooks much anymore, but to take a particular curriculum out of the classroom. That's not going to solve the problem. This goes back to, as you said, what our teachers are being taught. It is the theories that are underlying education in colleges, in universities, that are creating this framework from which these teachers go on and teach. So this is a much longer process of rooting out kind of a CRT-ectomy, removing this from public education. And it's not going to be settled just by removing this program or that program. This is a long-term process.
Absolutely. I'm out here in California at a conference, and I was talking today with some folks who are setting up an alternative teacher certification program so that veterans, people who've had a career and have retired and want to return to have a second career and perhaps would like to teach, they can do this online program and become certified once they can prove that they have subject matter expertise and they have pedagogical tools. In other words, they know how to teach kids. This, I think, is just a fantastic development because you're going to have new people entering the classroom who haven't necessarily come out of the educational infrastructure at universities, who will be bringing our new values that are more reflective of broader society.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We had a limited experiment with that back in Louisiana when I was in the legislature, and it wasn't based upon the concerns over critical race theory. It was just the fact we had a shortage of teachers. And so we had former military and others who had life skills that they just needed the certification to teach, and we got them into the classroom. But I think this is a great approach to diluting the influence of these left-leaning universities and colleges and putting into the classrooms those that have real life experience that have not been indoctrinated through these institutions. Meg, I want to bring up a couple of issues that are currently happening. First, Wisconsin, a school district there being sued by parents over their pronoun policy. This is very similar to what we saw in Virginia with what was happening there in Loudoun County. And we're going to go to Fairfax County in just a moment because there's some developments there. But parents, again, this is not necessarily a part of CRT, but it is a part of the deconstruction that's taking place on human sexuality.
Right. Well, quickly following critical race theory is queer theory, and this issue is a part of queer theory. So you have a situation where a student is depressed and anxious and is questioning her gender, and her parents have her in therapy, and they ask the school to please continue to use her given name and her biological pronouns. And the school just said, nope, we're going to change use the name she's picking as a boy, and we're going to use male pronouns for her. And this is exactly what the problem is for a lot of parents today, is that trust between the parents and the school have been broken, and the school is inserting itself and acting in a parental role and substituting their judgments for the judgments of the parents when they have absolutely no right to do that. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this case plays out. I was reading some of the documents on this case before the interview, and the young woman in one of the cases was experiencing rapid onset gender dysphoria, meaning she'd never had any indication of this previously. It just was all of a sudden a problem. And her parents were getting her therapy. They were helping their child. And it is not acceptable that families feel like they have to remove their children from the public school systems when their children are in a crisis because the school system isn't supporting the parent who is doing the best job they can to help their child to heal and grow. This isn't a sustainable situation. We're going to see more and more of these cases as these policies continue to pop up and to be utilized, and it's going to continue to be a problem.
Well, these gender-affirming policies that are in our public education system are a direct assault on parental rights because they're allowing these confused children, which oftentimes are being confused by what's being taught in the schools, and of course the peer pressure and social media. They're completely removing parents from the equation, and that is it's just fundamentally wrong. It's immoral. It's wicked.
It's the worst thing to do for children. It's the worst possible thing to do for children who are not in a physical danger. We have laws that protect children who are in dangerous situations at home, right? But when the parents are in good faith trying to do the best they can for their child who's struggling, it is simply just really frustrating and enraging to me as a parent to think that you have to remove your child from school for your child to be safe.
Speaking of evil, before we run out of time here, Meg, Loudoun County, or actually Fairfax County School District, we had Stacy Langton on a couple weeks ago talking about the books that she had discovered, pornographic books in the school library. She raised an issue about them at a school board meeting. She was shut down in the school board meeting for talking about it. She's been, contesting those books, but the school board, the Fairfax County School District in Falls Church, Virginia, has put two of those controversial books, one entitled Lawn Boy and Gender Queer, back onto the shelves. What's going on?
Back on the shelves. They were reviewed by an expert committee, Tony, of school officials and two parents of high school students and two high school students themselves, whose names, of course, we cannot know because they are secret. But they've reviewed the books and determined that they are appropriate for the high school level. I read Lawn Boy over. They announced the decision, of course, right before Thanksgiving, so that no one would talk about it or know that it happened. Right. So thank you for covering it now, because this is exactly the kind of thing that we need to know happens. I read Lawn Boy over the Thanksgiving break, and the decision by the board said that it did not meet the statutes for obscenity in the state of Virginia, and that the book contained no pedophilia. So I suppose that the people on that committee think that children committing sex acts on each other is not pedophilia, since it doesn't involve an adult and a child.
Meg, we're gonna have to leave it there. We're up against the end of the program, but obviously we're going to revisit this because this is a real problem. Folks, thanks so much for joining us.